Hello and welcome. You're watching Closing Trades here on ET Now. I'm Harsh Saita and we're joined by Anant Kharad, who's director at Anand Rathi Investment Banking, joining us with regard to his latest report, which has been published on the healthcare sector. Anant, great having you. The healthcare sector currently, the biggest trend is the consolidation that's playing out. It's a prolonged one and it's an ongoing one. Talk to us about, what are the primary factors or levers which is driving that consolidation, and why the preference towards consolidation over greenfield?
Yeah. So pleasure to be on the show. I think, as you correctly said, over the last few years, right? I think what has happened is a lot of consolidation is happening, right? People have now understood the buy and build model is working. People have also understood that along with greenfield, brownfield expansion is a critical aspect of growth in let's say at least healthcare delivery, right? And the genesis of it actually dates 10 years back, right? When you actually understand what happened 10 years back was a lot of these healthcare providers, right, obviously started taking a lot of private equity money, a lot of growth capital, right? What that resulted in a lot of people getting privately funded, publicly funded, right? And all of them, right, now have become at a stage where 20, 30, $40 million was invested. Now it has become at a stage where people are now seeking, let's say, increased growth. And some of the more established players in the market, right, both listed and unlisted, the larger guys are seeking growth outside, let's say, the usual suspects, right, which is your tier one metro cities. And when you go to one level below, tier two and tier three, that is where more action and the next level of growth is coming from. And to establish a greenfield there requires not only time, but also requires a lot of support from the local doctors, the local community, and all of that. So instead of going the greenfield path, a lot of people believe that acquiring a hospital, running hospital which is doing well, makes more sense because you already have the ecosystem in place, the catchment area is already established, the patient base is already there. That has actually helped and propelled uh, uh, M&A across the board in some of these regions.
And how should one differentiate between what's value accretive and what's value destructive? Because that also becomes important when you have acquisitions and when you're trying to kind of lever up your balance sheet and continue to acquire, right? There's been this rush towards increasing bed capacity. How should one differentiate?
See, if you look at only from a bed capacity perspective, we are still a bed deficit country, right? Except for part of some regions in the country which obviously have sufficient beds, especially south. The East Central and Northern India still are broadly, bed deficit, right? Maharashtra and Western region is picking up, but there is enough capacity to be implemented, right? Which is why some 35,000 beds are obviously getting added by the private sector over the next 5 years in the country, right? Uh, but having said that, right, you're right. There are times where you end up paying extra and richer multiples, right? And that's where it becomes a little value destructive. But as said, this game has been going on for quite a while. People have understood what's working and what's not working, right? What's more important is how people value, the catchment area, right? For example, if someone is heavily based out of north, going into, let's say, more underpenetrated regions in the east or central India probably makes more sense, right? Rather than going directly into south. I think that is where the action has happened. If you see the M&A landscape, also a lot of action has happened in East India. A lot of it is happening in West, in Gujarat, in Central India as well. And tier two, tier three towns have now become, let's say, the center of focus of for all of these guys.
And everyone is talking about tier two, tier three. Which cities genuinely have the economics to kind of support tertiary care? And where do you think investors are actually overestimating the kind of demand that's likely coming through?
See, as said, South is sufficiently penetrated. I would not say it's over penetrated, but it's sufficiently penetrated. Cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Coimbatore, these are cities where have enough and high quality beds, right? State like Kerala obviously has a great amount of beds as well. Goa being same, right? Goa has some 50 beds per 10,000 people. Our national average is broadly seven, eight beds, right? So all of these areas obviously are very, very highly penetrated and obviously doing well from a fairly long time. But where we see a lot of deficits still, especially in the Hindi belt, right, which is UP, Bihar, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, right? These are still heavily bed deficit, right? That is where you see. Max has announced something in Lucknow, a 700 bed hospital. Aster is doing another 1600 1700 capex as well. Uh, I think those areas still remain very, very underpenetrated, and it's not that the paying capacity is not there. If you go to any tier two, tier three cities, right, the paying capacity is still there. The problem is the availability of beds is the issue, right? I mean, 22% of our bed capacity in private still resides in only six metro cities, right? That's the problem. The rest 78% caters to the rest of the population, right? Which is a huge amount of huge amount of people, right? And given how our NCD diseases are moving, how the geriatric population is going up steadily over the past 10 years, and how is expected to move over the next 5 7 years. I think a widespread coverage of bed across tier two, tier three is what the theme, and we are extremely confident that this is the theme that will continue for the next at least 10 years.
Okay, and in terms of the acquisition-led growth and that kind of model, do you expect valuations will continue to inch upwards and therefore maybe disincentivize this model from continuing beyond a certain point, or do you see healthy legroom for and healthy appetite from existing players to continue to acquire?
See, we will see a mix of both. We will see a mix of both where people will start doing greenfield more aggressively in some of these cities. Obviously, there are places where if there is an existing facility or a bunch of facilities, right, who've done fairly well, right, and you can acquire, let's say, 1,000 beds in a particular region where you are actually keen at. Uh, it's prudent to probably pay a slightly more premium and get that facility immediately because it brings in patient, it brings in immediate capital allocation from the hospitals as well, and it can become immediately EBITDA accretive, right? Uh, Rather than going in a greenfield and spending 2 3 years and then trying to do the break even and probably scale the hospital. So it's a mixed strategy that people honestly will take, but I don't see M&A slowing down, or let's say growth capital slowing down for tier two, tier three cities going ahead. In fact, it will only accelerate because the demand in metros and tier ones are broadly now stabilizing, right? So the next level of growth will only come from some of these more smaller cities, which have the capability to pay honestly, right? It's just that the availability of quality services may not be available everywhere.
And so what I'm hearing is the consolidation, at least in tier one, will start to ebb. Is that correct? If I'm inferring that basis, whatever you've said.
Not really. So what I meant was in tier one, the growth is probably more slowing down. The growth is coming more from tier two, tier three. Uh, Tier one will also have consolidation plays happening, but I see the momentum slightly more in let's say the smaller cities.
Hospital RPOB, I want to speak a little bit about that as well. It's been exceptionally strong, right, last few
Yeah.
years. Future earnings growth likely to be driven by pricing, occupancy, mix improvement, efficiency. How do you see it play out?
Yeah. See, in our opinion, right, I think RPOBs, as you correctly said, have been obviously pretty decent, and the growths have been decent, right? Medical price hikes have been at least decent post COVID. Uh, Two ways I think where hospitals will probably shift their focus, right? One is obviously rationalizing the prices that they are charging the customers, right? So probably focusing on more high value services. That's one. Second, moving out, let's say, small surgeries, daycare divisions to probably a single specialty units, which a lot of these larger pan India players have started doing, right? uh, I think that will be the theme going ahead. People have started realizing, it started with dialysis, where people realize that outsourcing a dialysis unit probably is slightly a better way to function. It will slowly move to more daycare procedures going ahead. Small surgeries do not make enough money as probably a cardiovascular surgery would. So these probably will start slowly moving away, and the mix will change. Obviously, you will see a lot of high quality services for which people used to move out of the country start happening in India. It's already happening in a lot of hospitals, especially the larger ones, and their center of excellences. That will continue to gain momentum, and I think that along with a lot of medical tourism from the Middle East, from Southeast Asia, Africa, those are anyways driving the prices pretty decently for all of these guys.
Makes sense. And what are the bottlenecks? I mean, could talent be one of the bottlenecks? What are the bottlenecks to this story?
Uh, Absolutely. So bottlenecks, one is obviously talent, right? Enough doctors. I think for which a proactive step has already been taken are medical college seats, which are broadly at 50,000 now, expected to go up to 1,20,000 in the next 3 years, 4 years. I think that is one major bottleneck that is there. But I think we are already on the right track to probably address it. Nurses, I do not think we have a shortage of nurses or midwives or technicians in the country. It is just a matter of time that can we retain that talent in the country and help, let's say, our domestic players rather than exporting them to other countries. Yeah, I think these two will remain the bottlenecks, and obviously capital requirement. When you go to much smaller cities, the gestation of greenfield projects can be slightly longer, so a lot of patient capital is needed. But I don't see money being, let's say, a big detrimental to people not doing capex. There is enough money out there. The sector has seen a lot of FDI and domestic money flow in, and we feel that will continue going ahead as well.
And what is the one thing, Anant, that investors are not fully pricing in? Because obviously valuations continue to be at elevated levels. Uh, what are risks? Could it come from regulation? Could it come from competition? Execution of all of the capex that's being floated around? What could that key risk be from an investor standpoint?
See, execution obviously remains a risk, right? I mean, when you do a greenfield project, it's a at least a 12 to 18 month gap to build the facility, get the approvals, and get it running. And then it takes broadly around 2.5 to 3 years for it to break even and then reach steady state, right? That obviously remains the key. Apart from that, I would say getting the local talent, right? When you're going to a place which is probably not your stronghold and you're going to a differentiated place, to get the right talent, and by talent I mean doctors, right? Because they will drive the OPDs, they will drive the IPDs, right? Those remain the key, right? And I think once that is sorted, right, and some of these players have started working aggressively on that, right? People have realized that doctors play an important role in the business, right? In getting the right treatments done, getting the right quality assessment for the patients. Once that is sorted, I think those remain, couple of probably key issues that need to be by some of these guys.
Okay. Anand, thank you so much. Very good having you here and having this conversation.
Thanks.